I would like, first of all, to put onto the screen PowerPoint. I hope you'll be able to see it. Are you able to see the PowerPoint at the present time? Does it come up? Yes, you see the PowerPoint. Okay, well, first of all, I want to tell you that it's just wonderful to see all of you. It's been a number of years since I've been traveling to the United States and Canada, and I still get to France and England from time to time, but it's wonderful to remember all of my visits in your schools and the wonderful work we've done together in the past in the area of Torah Sheba'al Peh. I want to thank Mickey and Shali and Chana Selman, the entire staff of the World Center for Jewish Education for its organization of this webinar and in helping us stay in touch with all of you in the promotion of the study and teaching of Torah Sheba'al Peh. And I also want to thank each and every one of you because we're all living in difficult times, and you all are, I'm sure, busy beyond your imagination in trying to keep things together during the time of Corona and also during the time of unrest in the United States and around the world. And I want to thank each and every one of you individually for making the time to come and to learn with me this evening. I hope that we'll be able to continue to share our contacts in the future. After this session is completed, of course, I want you to feel comfortable to be in touch with me at any time in the future. If there's anything that we're able to do to be of help, I would be more than happy to do so. Okay, so we talked about this evening about Torah Sheba'al Peh online. It's a very, very special topic because we all know that Torah Sheba'al Peh plays a critical role in the curriculum of any Jewish school. And teaching it online is not easy because it is a very textual topic. It's text-oriented. It's labor-intensive, the learning of Torah Sheba'al Peh. And so how do we make this relevant in the time when we have to teach everything online and we don't have the personal contact with students the way we would like? I'd like to share with you that I really think that this is a great opportunity in disguise. Because despite the fact that we have to learn online with our students, we have to remember that really Torah Sheba'al Peh started this way. Not online, but Torah Sheba'al Peh started as an oral system, not as a system of texts, certainly not. And Rabbanim and Talmidim learned from each other orally without the help of any texts whatsoever. We know that in the time of the Talmud and in the time of the Savuraim and the Gaonim, they knew all of the texts by heart, and therefore they were speaking to each other orally while looking at each other and not by looking into a text. And maybe what this opportunity that we've received here, Kol Maida Avid Rahmana Letavaved, that we have now an opportunity to renew aspects of our study of Torah Sheba'al Peh that we may have forgotten in the past. The oral and digital medium forces us back to a stress on eye contact and attachment with our students, because even though there may be 20 or 30 students online, every screen is individual and we can see every student individually, sometimes even more than we could in a large classroom, which is busy with many things. And I think as we're going to go further into our program, that I think that this medium offers us with an ability to renew our teaching and to learn skills that we can continue to use even afterwards. I have found also that the digital medium can even increase intimacy and promote individuality, because if you know how to use the digital medium properly, then you can use all sorts of tools to zoom in on individual students or groups of students and provide their needs. And we're going to take a look at that. We call this 5 pointers for the teaching of Torah Sheba'al Peh, but you know that the World Center for Jewish Education and Bonayich always make a point of giving much more than we're ever asked for. So instead of 5 pointers, I'm going to give you 10, 5 in one area and 5 in another. Let's start with 5 pointers about maintaining methodology. And I wanted to stress that although many of us will look at the digital medium as an informal kind of education, it's my opinion that it's not really informal education. It is simply another conduit for formal education. And we must not forget that as teachers and principals and Jewish studies coordinators, that we have an obligation to maintain curriculum. We have an obligation to maintain methodology, because after all, we're still in school. It's just in another form. And I'd like to discuss 5 points of how we must maintain methodology as we go forward in the teaching of Torah Sheba'al Peh online. The first is that we need to give Torah Sheba'al Peh its appropriate place. This is something I've discussed with many of you individually, that Jewish schools around the world, especially in the primary and middle school years, devote an enormous amount of time to the teaching of Torah Shebichtav, especially Chumash Bereshit and Chumash Shmot, even though the impact of Torah Sheba'al Peh on our lives as Jews and on the lives of our students is far greater than the impact of Chumash Bereshit and Chumash Shmot. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be teaching Torah Shebichtav. Of course not. We must be teaching Torah Shebichtav. But Torah Sheba'al Peh has been greatly understressed and undervalued in many institutions. And it's time to consider, in this special time, what Torah Sheba'al Peh can contribute to increasing our students' Jewish identity and their attachment to us and to our schools. As you know, we live by Torah Sheba'al Peh. We do not live by Torah Shebichtav, and therefore students who learn only Chumash Bereshit and the beginning of Chumash Shmot in their elementary years do not even receive within their study of Mikra an exposure to halachic mitzvot, and therefore their contact with Torah Sheba'al Peh is a bit limited. And I would urge you to consider varying the curriculum a bit to allow for students to experience Torah Sheba'al Peh in a fuller way than they might have otherwise. And this means developing the knowledge chain. And now, what do I mean by the knowledge chain? Jewish knowledge is a continuum that starts with Torah Shebichtav and moves through Midrash, Mishnah, Talmud, Midrash Halacha, and Agadah into Halacha. And all of Jewish life as we know it today is the product of the development of all of these texts and all of these traditions. And it's important for students to develop the awareness of this knowledge chain, this continuity of learning that goes through all of this variety of sources. And therefore, when we teach Torah Sheba'al Peh, we'll always begin with a source in Torah Shebichtav and ask what is clear and what is unclear in this source so that we can bring Torah Sheba'al Peh as a response to what is unclear in the Torah Shebichtav. As my Rabbi Alav Shalom used to say to me, there is no problem with being confused as long as we are clear what we are confused about. And therefore, when we learn a pasuk and something is unclear, that's an opportunity. It's not a problem. It's actually an important opportunity for students to take inventory of what they understand and what they do not yet understand, and then to fill that void with moving with sources down the chain of Jewish knowledge. So developing this awareness of the chain is a very, very important thing. But even more important than that, I would say, is for students to become aware of the developmental essence of Torah Sheba'al Peh. You know, Torah Sheba'al Peh was not born fully blown from the waves. Torah Sheba'al Peh was developed, and it continues to be developed in our own day, one generation after the other, one level on top of the other. And therefore, when we study Torah Sheba'al Peh properly, we're able to see within the texts of the Torah Sheba'al Peh developmental aspects. If you are familiar with the Tanaim and the Amoraim, with their lives and times, you can track both in Mishnah and in Talmud the layering of the text and see how each later layer responds to earlier layers and embellishes and interprets and adds and innovates on the basis of earlier layers. And this developmental structure of Torah Sheba'al Peh is really a basis for us teaching students how they themselves can become involved in the process by becoming learners of Torah Sheba'al Peh. That our communities today are continuing to develop Torah Sheba'al Peh. Here in Israel, Torah Sheba'al Peh is under very intensive development with all sorts of new situations posing new challenges in Halacha and in Machshavet Yisrael. And therefore, when we teach any text, remember that the texts that we are learning, the texts are not Tarash Bal Peh. They're the literature of the Tarash Bal Peh. The Tarash Bal Peh itself is a dynamic system that lies behind all of these texts, bringing the text into reality and then moving beyond any text to the next one. And the Tarash Bal Peh as a dynamic system is alive today no less than it has been before, and is continuing to drive our learning and our development. There's another issue that we have to get to in Tarash Bal Peh, the fourth point, and that is build learning around Torah personalities. You know, instead of teaching children Mishnah, we can teach them Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Meir, Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, Hillel and Shammai themselves, Shimon HaTzadik, and we can build a more personal curriculum by exposing children to who these figures were. You know, in some of our materials in Vishinantam and also in V'dibarta, we use drawn figures to represent them. No one knows what the Tanaim and Amoraim actually look like, but it doesn't matter. When we make these representations, it's in order to personalize them and give students an opportunity to relate to the names of Tanaim and Amoraim as individuals. In the system that we developed in our Center for the Study of Tanaim and the Study of Amoraim, which some of you have and use in your schools, we give the opportunity to see how all of these personalities were interlocked, one with the other. Who is whose student? Who is whose teacher? Who is whose colleague? And through hyperlinks, they can move from one to the other and see how the lives of the Tanaim and Amoraim, the lives and times of the Tanaim and Amoraim influenced what it was they learned and taught. And I think that it would be useful, especially in learning online, to orient things to things that are more personal and more that drive more of an emotive connection. And the learning about the personalities and the lives of the Tanaim and Amoraim would be a good way to do it. But also, it's important to use experiential modalities of Masorah. Now, people ask, what do you mean by experiential modalities of the Masorah? Our Masorah is very, very experiential in the way it learned, as we're going to see. Mishnah was never learned as a text. It was learned as an experience from the teacher, from the parent, to the student, to the child, in a way that created attachment and created involvement. And this is especially important in the digital medium. This helps us move from the issue of the maintaining methodologies to the issues of pedagogy, which I want to discuss with you now about how we promote proper pedagogy in the medium of Zoom or any other digital medium for the teaching of the methodologies of Tarash Bal Peh. Let's talk about these practical suggestions. And I want to thank all of you for sending your questions in to Chani Selman in advance so that I could see what it is you wanted to hear about. And I'll try to gear my answers to your questions. First of all, someone asked, how do you make sure that students have the text in front of them when you're learning in a digital medium? And of course, the digital medium provides several opportunities for doing that. The first is, of course, to make sure that all the texts that we want to present are on the screen. When a student learns in class, they may see something on a smartboard. They may see something on the writing board. They may have a text in front of them, but it's not nearly as powerful as them seeing on a full screen at home on the computer or in wherever they're sitting in their own personal computer, seeing a large text come onto the screen. When you put a text on the screen, you can manipulate that text. You can design the text. You can place things on top of the text that will make it more intelligible and more enjoyable. So if these are skills which you have, use them. If there's skills you don't yet have, gain them so that you're able to create the kinds of PowerPoint presentations, but not only PowerPoint, many other tools that are available, so that the text, when you put them on the screen, they have an impressive quality about them when the students look at them. This does not mean that students should not have texts in front of them. In addition to the text you put on the screen, which have already been chosen by yourselves and selected and put onto the screen very, very purposefully, it's important that students also still have in front of them real texts at home in their hands. And in preparation for digital sessions, it's important to have the personal contact with the students to make sure that every child has a full Chumash or a full Tanakh with them at home, as well as a Sefer Mishnah. When we teach Vishinantam to schools around the world, we urge that from grade 4, every child should have on their table a full Tanakh and a full Shisha Sidrei Mishnah in a digital edition. A full Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, either in the Mishnah Sdura or in Kahati, whatever it is. Why? Because we want students to know how to manipulate texts, how to find them, how to navigate, how to locate texts, how to look things up, and know that they can function in the traditional texts. You can put a selected text online, and that's very good, but it is nothing like saying to a student, here, I've put online a few lines from Mishnah Brachot, Perek Daled, Mishnah Aleph. Open up your Mishnayot at home, hold up your Mishnayot onto the screen, and show me that you have found Masechet Brachot, Perek Daled, Mishnah Aleph. And you can see immediately if the students are with you. They hold the screen up, and on their camera, you can see whether they have found the text appropriately. It's an opportunity to give them all sorts of exercises in navigation, location of references. And the combination of having a text in front of them as to find things and seeing the selected text that you're interested on the screen, that is a very important combination. And I'll just mention a couple of other clear items about putting text up on the screen. When you put a text on the screen, make sure that you divide the text into what we call in Hebrew kit'ei mashma'ut. That is, that you punctuate it into lines where every line contains only one concept. And you number the lines for ease of reference, so that when you are saying to a child, let's look at this text on the screen, you can see, I'm talking about line 3. You make it easier for a child to navigate. You make it easier for a child to follow you. He has to then find that, of course, in his book in front of him, but at least he has on the screen something that makes it easier for him to locate what it is you're talking about. That's number one. Number two, use color. Use colors. I saw a beautiful technique used in a school recently in a program that I did with them, that when they put psukim or on the screen, they use different colors for nouns, for adjectives, for verbs, in order that children would be able to locate the structures of the texts easily. If you're talking about Torah shebichtav, be sure to use a text that has ta'amei mikra, because you're going to want to present the text of Torah shebichtav in song, not in reading. And in Mishnah as well, there is nothing wrong with putting te'amim on Mishnah as well. In the Kairu Geniza, they found kitvei yad of Mishnah with tamei mikra on them, because Mishnah is chanted, and therefore you'll want to use some kind of a system to parse pieces of Mishnah and allow them to be sung by students. Now this brings us to our second point of pedagogy: use melody whenever possible. I find it amazing that every text in Judaism has a specific melody, and yet many teachers insist on reading the texts instead of singing them. Singing is so much more productive. Why do we have Tamei Mikra on Psukim? In order that we will parse the Psukim and sing them together with the proper punctuation. And as you know, Mikra is rich in melodies. Not only is there a melody for Chamisha Chumshei Torah and a melody for Navi, and melodies for the Chamesh Megillot. These melodies are of critical importance and signal to children what it is that they are learning. I'm reminded of I was once in a Yekesh show somewhere, and one of them said to me, do you know why it is when we read the Megillat Esther that we read some of the psukim in the melody of Echa? And I said, why? And he said, so that we Yekim can also enjoy ourselves. But the very fact when you use a melody, it contacts children at a level in their mind that reading simply doesn't do. In fact, I always say to teachers around the world, I don't want to hear any reading of psukim. I want to only hear singing of psukim. When I walk through the halls of your school, I want to hear classrooms filled with the song of psukim. at a very, very dati school in England recently, we instituted this where the entire school went over from the reading of Mikra to the singing of Mikra. We taught the teachers, some of the women in the school were not familiar with Tamia Mikra, but we taught it to them, and they started teaching with song. The change in the school was immediate and dramatic because children became more involved in their learning through singing. Mishnah is no different, and Mishnah is even more powerful in this respect than Torah Shebichtav, because Mishnah not only has a melody, Mishnah is designed to be learned be'al peh with melody. And this is the medium that we have here, this digital medium is designed for that. When you learn Torah Shebichtav, it should be read out of a book or out of a text on the screen. But Mishnah should not be learned initially from a text. Mishnah should be learned initially from a human being to another, to little human beings, through eye contact and melody. Me'ematai korin et shma ba'aravit, misha'a sha'kohanim nichnasim lecho bitrumatan, ad sofa shmura rishona divrei Rabbi Eliezer, v'chachamim omrim ad chatzot, Rabban Gamliel omer ad she'aleh amud hashachar. Now, I know that in America and in Western education, learning be'al peh is, let's say, has been ridden out of the school system. But I remember that when I was young, 100 years ago, we used to learn things by heart in schools that had nothing to do with Judaism. We by heart, we learned the Declaration of Independence, the Gettysburg Address, sections of the Constitution of the United States, lists of presidents, lists of all sorts of things. And it was an essential part, I think, of our cognitive development. Torah Shebe'al Peh should be learned be'al peh. If you have never experienced what it is to learn Mishnah with Shinun be'al peh, using the method that we promote in Bonayich, I invite you to ask Shali and Mickey to do another webinar only on the topic of Shinun, and we'll be happy to share with you our methodology for Shinun and show you just how incredibly powerful a weapon it is. It defeats boredom. Boredom cannot stand up to Shinun. Use melody whenever possible. Not to mention the use of song, not of just general songs. Not only Shinun and melody of Torah Shebichtav, but in general songs are very, very important thing. There's a rabbi here in Israel, Rav Yitzchak Shavit, Shlita, who has put out discs of songs for learning, for Jewish learning, which include lists of personalities, lists of the books of the Tanakh, all sorts of lists sung. And for my grandchildren, I hear these songs all the time. When we are together on Shabbat, around the Shabbat table, my grandchildren sing these songs to me. And I can check whether or not they've learned all of the Nevi'im and all the Malachim in order according to by name, and their faces light up with the melody. So the digital medium is exceptionally sensitive to this, and there's no reason why it can't be used. Point number 3 in pedagogy, use a lot of visuals, both stills and videos. There's no reason, for instance, when we teach students about the places of the Sanhedrin, from the Lishkat HaGazit and the Beit Mikdash to Yerushalayim, to Yavne, to Usha, to Shfar'am, to Beit She'arim, to Tzipori, that we don't show on the screen pictures of these places and show them in a visual map how our Chachamim moved from one place to the other. Children, by their nature, until they're 12 years old at least, think in concrete terms, not in abstract terms. They need to see concrete images and hear concrete ideas, not abstract ideas. So use visuals to show them. Videos, there's untold numbers of videos that are available online. Do you know that there's close to 10,000 Jewish websites on the internet, and it's growing by the rate of hundreds every month? The enormity of Torah online it's astounding, it's overwhelming. Use it. Any topic that you would like to teach, look for a video of 2 or 3 minutes online that teaches it for you to discuss. Children become riveted with a video and then will listen to what you have to say about it. If you have difficulty locating things yourselves, turn to Mickey, turn to Shali, turn to me, and we'll help you find material that you can use. That is what we're here for, is to be available for you, to consult to you when you need us. So use melody, use visuals. If you're working with Zoom or with other digital media, then use breakout groups and jigsaw teaching to promote involvement. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't know how many of you know how to use breakout groups when you're doing Zoom, but if you're doing 20 or 30 students on Zoom, you know, just as in a classroom, you're going to strive for differential education by breaking the children up into small groups according to their needs and doing several lessons parallel in the classroom simultaneously. You can do exactly the same thing on Zoom. You can create breakout groups of students. You can pre-design which students will be in which breakout groups so that you can group them according to their needs. And then you can provide for each breakout group something that you want them to do. Well, one breakout group is dealing with a pasuk that you've been studying that has to do with Sukkah. Another breakout group can be learning a Mishnah about that that comes out of that pasuk. You can then have someone else learning a Memra of an Amora that talks about that Mishnah. And then you can have the students come back from their breakout groups and have them teach each other online with the things that they've learned in the breakout groups. It's a very, very powerful tool to use. And jigsaw teaching is great for the digital medium. Students would love to be able to speak and project themselves to their friends online. And that, I think, oftentimes makes even the shyest child be tempted into expressing themselves online. And when some of you asked in the questions that you submitted to Khani, was how do you make sure that individual students are with you when you're teaching online? And I think and that's a very important question. And the answer is really not too different from the way it is in a classroom. What if you're in a classroom with 25 students and you want to make sure a child is with you? What do? You go over to them, right? You put your hand on their head or their shoulder and look at them eyeball to eyeball with a big smile and ask them if they've understood what you said, and ask them to whisper into your ear something that you asked them. So that, of course, not in front of the class, but one-on-one. You can do the same thing in the digital medium. You can focus in on a given student and send them a message. You can chat with them online as you're developing a lesson online. You can produce chat messages to send to individual students. What child would not want to receive a personal chat message from their teacher while they're studying with their friends? It's an enormous touch. And of course, it's very important to follow your large group meetings online with chevruta meetings among students and with yourself. What do I mean by that? You know, students know how to use computers often better than we do. Students have no problem setting up chevruta with each other online from their homes and learning things. And you can direct their chevruta learning by giving them specific assignments that they should be doing with each other. And again, according to their levels, have certain chevrutot learning the Mishnah Be'ahart. Others will be learning the biographies of the Chachamim who appeared in order to report back on that. Different chevrutot will learn different things. And then when you bring the group back together, you can ask a chevruta to present what they've been doing outside the group, just among themselves. But one thing that I found to be very powerful as well, in recent times, during the last 3 months of this Tkufat Corona, is the individual study online with students. I thank God, have many, many grandchildren. I spend approximately 30% of my time learning with my grandchildren online. I certainly could not give up learning with them just because I can't see them physically. And so we learn online, we learn Mishnah, we learn Gemara, we learn Halacha, we learn Midrash, we learn all sorts of things. And the individual contact that I have found during the Zoom period has been remarkable for the building of relationships. And I therefore say it's really gam Zoom l'tova. There's no doubt about it. The Zoom medium has really enabled us to reach out and touch individual students and chevrutot in a way that we couldn't do so before. And I don't want to miss the opportunity, because I know that I'm supposed to limit my remarks to 40, 45 minutes, so there'll also be time for your questions, but I can't miss the opportunity to put this up on the screen as well and remind you of what we have developed here in Bonayich and what we distribute now in partnership with Mickey and Shali through the World Center for Jewish Education. And that is not only our programs of Vishinantam for the study of Mishnah, and V'dibartabam for the study of Talmud, methodological study of Talmud, skills-based study of Mishnah and Talmud. And these include student booklets, and they include teacher manuals, and they include posters and games and puzzles and learning centers online. Now, we're also very happy to tell you about the new development, which is iKodesh Digital Day School. The iKodesh Digital Day School is a dream. There's no other word for it. I recommend that you go online to www.ikodesh, with a dash in between the I and the K, ikodesh.com, and learn our website to see what we have planned. I think you'll find it to be quite astounding. This is the landing page that you see here, where children will be able to log in to iKodesh. iKodesh is designed to produce thousands of lessons in Jewish studies in 12 different topic areas for grades 2 through 8. We've just begun the development. We have several units online, which we have already piloted in about 5 or 6 schools around the world with remarkable feedback and results. And as we achieve greater funding for this project, we'll develop more and more units all the time. But by the time September rolls around, there'll already be enough units about Mishnah on iKodesh for you to be able to do a good portion of your Mishnah curriculum through iKodesh online. And you can use it in conjunction with Vishinantam or on its own independently. And it's designed to be an open platform, so teachers, once they are registered on iKodesh with their class, they can add things into the iKodesh platform for their own classrooms to make the program designed for their specific class over and above what it is that what we've put into the program. iKodesh is being written and designed by my partner in crime, Sharoni Rosner, who has a master's degree in Talmud from Bar Ilan, and she's an exceptionally talented didactic writer and pedagogic trainer. And she also provides training for teachers in how to use iKodesh, as well as how to use Vishinantam. And we provide training in how to use V'dibartabam. So to summarize, before I open it up for your questions, I think that this period of time, with all of its trials and with all of its challenges, provides enormous possibilities for us with our students. It gives us opportunities to get close to them, to service their needs, to find out more about what interests them individually and in small groups. And it challenges us as teachers and educators to grow. It challenges us to grow. You know, there are many ways in Torah Sheba'al Peh to look at changing circumstances. Rav Kook taught us in many places in his writings that changing circumstances were created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The world was created as a place that changes in order to make us grow, to make us adapt and develop and change. When circumstances bring us challenges, that's not a reason to complain. That's a reason to rejoice, because challenges enable us to develop new strategies, new ideas, and new methods to present what we have to present to Yaldei Yisrael. And therefore, I hope that together with wishing all of you, of course, good health and success in all that you do, I hope that this period, this very special period of when we've been secluded in our homes and forced to renew ourselves, that you'll come out of this period back to your schools and your students with renewed energies, with more varied methodologies and pedagogies, and with the ability to fulfill yourself in teaching in a way that you were not able to do even before. I would be happy now if you would like to ask questions to open the microphones, and please, we have a few minutes, not too long, we have a few minutes for questions.
Who
would like to ask a question?
הרב, אם אתה יכול להוריד את השיתוף במסך?
Yes, of course.
Yes. אני אשים את כולם במיוט ואנשים יפתחו יותר טוב.
Whoever wants to speak, simply unmute your microphone and you can speak up.
Rav Hayman's Seth Corlitz. I wanted to ask your thoughts on, you said near the beginning about that Torah Sheba'al Peh is probably more important, that, we're all rabbinic Jews, right? None of us are Karaites. But what are your thoughts about getting that point across to students who, by and large, are not living their lives and don't see sort of the importance, and their families may not see the importance of living a halakha life, right? They're not keeping Shabbos, they're not keeping kosher, they may not celebrate the Chagim other than when they're in school. So I can make a case to them that, listen, Torah Shebiktav is more important, but in some ways it doesn't resonate with the way they think of themselves. So how do you see that as a gap the way I do? And if so, how would you bridge it?
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. There. It's a very important question because Torah Sheba'al Peh is really the essence of Jewish identity as we know it today. Virtually everything that we know is Jewish identity today comes from Torah Sheba'al Peh. And therefore, to the degree that we are able to communicate Torah Sheba'al Peh to our students will be the degree to which we're able to communicate Jewish identity to them. And therefore, your question is doubly important. I would say to you that my experience with elementary students, and I've taught every age from kindergarten up through university, is that with elementary school students, you don't explain, you show, and you share. It's not an intellectual experience. That's why I think Shinun, when the study of Mishnah, is such an incredibly powerful instrument. When I've traveled North America and I visited schools, not only Orthodox day schools, also Solomon Schechter day schools and Reform day schools and community day schools, and I did Shinun of Mishnah in all of these schools. When you teach students Mishnah b'Shinun together, you're with them, you walk through the halls in the schools singing Mishnayot with them. You go out to play basketball with them singing a Mishnah. When you have that kind of a relationship with students, then you don't have to explain to them, because the attachment to you and through what you're teaching them, that is what convinces them that the lifestyle that you represent is relevant to them. Students do not learn because something makes sense to them. They learn because they are attached to the teachers that are presenting Torah to them. And therefore, what we talked about here in this webinar is very, very important to put stress. Don't forget the methodology. Put stress, though, on experiential ways of presenting the methodologies. And I would also recommend to you, do not pay any attention whatsoever to what the orientation or what you perceive as the orientation of their families at home. You are there to save lives, plain and simple. You're there to save lives. And kol hamatzil nefesh achat miYisrael kimatzil lekol olam kulo. I can tell you that I grew up in a family that I never received any Jewish education until I finished high school. My parents were wonderful parents and believing people, but they never had any Jewish training, and they couldn't train us in Jewish observance at home. But no one gave up on me. There was a rabbi in our small community that put his hand on my shoulder and developed a relationship with me, and sheli v'shelachem shelo. Don't forget that when your children walk through that through the door to the classroom, and you're standing in front of the class, you are Har Sinai on two legs. And make sure that the presentation you make to the students with the love and the affection and the excitement that you put over and the attachment to them, that will be the way to convince them that what you're teaching is relevant.
I have a question.
Yes, please, Penina.
Okay, so we already have a curriculum for 5th and 6th grade. That's when I teach the Mishnah, right? So now
Yes.
you're coming and said, wait a minute, I have the iKodesh for you. So how is iKodesh, it can be integrated in what we already have? If it
Yes.
can be integrated, or do I need to drop what I have and
No,
go
no.
inside? So what's going on with the iKodesh?
Okay, you don't drop what you have. I know what's going on in your school intimately because I wrote the curriculum.
I know.
Yes. So, and iKodesh fits right into the things you have. iKodesh can be used, first of all, as something that children can do from home. It's a lot of fun. It's interactive. It can be used for self-learning as well. So you can give students lessons and then tell them at home to be active with iKodesh, or you can use it for a lesson here and there in class to back up what you're teaching from the texts and the booklets that we've developed. iKodesh will not have this coming year enough on it for a full year's curriculum, but it will have enough to be a good augmentation of the curriculum materials that we've developed in your school. And so what I would recommend, though, Penina, is that at the beginning of the year, when your teachers are getting together and having orientation, that maybe we ought to have an hour session on Zoom with your teachers to talk about, and you can meet with me and with Sharoni and talk about how to integrate iKodesh into what you're already doing. We'd be delighted to help you with that.
So if I'll go down to iKodesh, can I have like just a sense of what is it about?
So what you do is once you go into iKodesh, you can write us an email that you'd like a password, so you can go in to see what it is. And we'll arrange a meeting for you to have a meeting with Sharoni Rosner, who's running iKodesh, and she'll be more than happy to guide you through it and show you how to use it. I think you'll find it quite entertaining.
שיש 12 ערוצים, אולי להגיד בכמה מילים.
So the dream of iKodesh, as you'll see when you go online, is to build curriculum in 12 areas of Jewish studies, including Torah, Navi, Mishnah, Talmud, Halacha, Midrash, Tefillah and Beit Knesset, Parashat Shavua, Jewish history, structural Hebrew language, and to develop lessons that we've already developed the entire curriculum for it in print. We have all of the curricula written out already. You can see introductions to those curricula on the 12 areas on the website. If you go onto the website and you click, for instance, on Midrash v'Agadah, you'll be able to look at the beginning of the curriculum that we've written for Midrash and Agadah. You won't see the whole curriculum there. You'll see the beginning of it. If you want to see the rest of it, then of course you'll join iKodesh and we'll develop a relationship and we'll share it all with you. Based on the curriculum that we've written for all these 12 areas of Jewish studies, we will then be developing the online lessons that will be iKodesh in action for the students. iKodesh is designed to be used, first of all, in schools to help you do differential instruction. So that if you have a class where you've got 5 students that need more, and you don't have you don't want to hire more staff in order to do differential instruction, you can put 5 kids together on iKodesh, and we can put a teacher online to help those 5 students together with iKodesh, and they can receive a full lesson in a topic that you might never be able to teach them. iKodesh will also be used in homeschooling environments for those that are unable for one reason or another to be in a Jewish school. And it'll provide also chevruta learning for registered students from different places around the world. It'll be a real revolution in Jewish education, and we're proud to present it together with the World Center for Jewish Education. Other questions?
Any more questions?
Well, we're about out of time, I think. Are we not?
אולי תדבר על הקורס דיגיטל, שאיך לא...
Sure. So good evening, everyone. I didn't say hello and shalom to everyone. Some of you I already know. We wanted to add that our pedagogical center includes both Hebrew, Judaic, and Jewish heritage materials and resources. And we invite you to set a meeting with us to see how we can assist and provide an added value to your school. We have more teacher trainings about transitioning from teaching in front of a classroom to teaching remotely, which is a very, everyone is talking about this right now, given the situation. We have trainings for other materials, advising about selecting your materials, and more. So for any questions, I put the email, our email is in the chat. You can either contact me, myself, Sheli, or Chani Seelman, who's also here. I put her email there as well. And we welcome you to contact us, especially after hearing from Rabbi Hayman. If there's anything, if you had a question and only thought about it later, please email us and we will be happy to either set a meeting or answer you. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was very informative and beautiful to hear all of you. It's really nice. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Penina.
Pleasure. A pleasure.
Thank you.
Shalom from Israel.
Bye-bye. Be well. Have a Shabbat Shalom.
Laila
Bye-bye.
Tov Yisrael.